And welcome again to America Can We Talk and to today's First Five. I'm Debbie Georgatos. There was an amazing video released by Project Veritas. You know, we played their videos other times on this show. This involves, and what they have uncovered in San Antonio, Texas, this involves the most amazing on-camera, staring right at the camera, looking right at you, telling you, oh, sure, we can deliver votes for you. It'll cost this number of dollars to get this many votes. It includes admissions of who among candidates, elected officials are paying these ballot harvesters. And we're going to play those clips in one moment. But what I want to say before we play them is this. Just think of every time there's any discussion at all in America about maybe having voter ID, maybe the need to clean the voter rolls, remove people who are deceased or who no longer live in the state where they're listed. All sorts of basic ballot integrity measures, anytime they're raised by any Republican ever, all you hear from the left, all you hear from the radical left is the idea that is completely absurd. There is not cheating in voting. This is ridiculous. And you hear, of course, the accusation, this is just an intention, a mission to suppress votes. It's a minority vote suppression mission, is what the left says. But this is, I mean, we are now less than a week away from the most important election of our lifetimes, the 2020 elections next week, November 3rd, and we had this uncovered. I'm going to ask Derek the Wonderful, who is filling in for Matt this week, to play. This is the very first clip I think I sent you, Derek. Project Veritas video from that one article I sent. Here it is.
Earlier this week, we introduced you to Raquel Rodriguez and her illegal election law activities in San Antonio, Texas. Well, there is more. Listen carefully as she tells our undercover journalist the cost of buying votes.
I've got three Democrats, three Republicans, and the rest are Democrats.
Okay.
So, how much money are we talking? Because just so you'll know, when you do things like this for votes, you're talking between $5 to $8 per vote. I'm just letting you know, so you have an idea. And I'm going to bring $3,500 to the plate.
Okay.
Countywide. So I know what I'm bringing to the plate countywide. So that's like $28,000.
Like model right now. He said, "Okay, Raquel, if you were running, what would you do?" So he sat me down and I said, "I would do this, and this." He said, "How much money do you think you would need?" And I budgeted everything, right? Okay, boom, you do it. So he was paying me $5,000 a month, and now he's paying me $8,000 a month. Why? Because I took in this extra job.
So between you and me, I've got 4 judges that are calling me right now. This is what they're asking me. And they're like, we want to be a part of this group. So if we pay you $3,500 each, that's like $12,000, dude. So those 3 judges that I'm talking about, and that's Renee Yanta, Nicole Garza, right? They're paying me $3,500, to make sure that their name is on the ballot.
How much did the city council race cost?
I gave you my total.
It's in there?
It's $5,000 a month for me,
Yep.
$8,000 for Tom.
Yep, 8,000 a month.
$8,000 for our 2
How many months will it go through?
7,
56,000?
probably.
Let's say
And then 2 months of early voting. 2 months of early voting is my people's 5 to 7.
Cash.
That's, yeah.
When we asked about buying votes for U.S. Senate candidate M.J. Hagar and candidate Biden, here's what she had to say.
We're looking at top ticket to get votes for either Biden. How many votes do you think you can deliver for us?
At least 5,000.
And what are we looking at as far as how much that's going to cost?
For the entire team that I'm looking at $55,000.
So $55,000 for 5,000 votes, top ticket, either Biden.
If not more. I'm not going to overpromise, because remember, we're 16 days till election day. You can give me cash, you can do whatever you want to do.
$55,000 upfront, 5,000 votes.
That's right.
Cash.
Yeah, I'm getting the Biden vote out, but I mean, I'm not going to do it for free. In other words, if they don't pay me, I'm like, excuse me, that's another worry I don't have to worry about.
You said it was like $5 or $8 per vote. How many votes? I mean, how much are we looking at roughly?
Shoot, you know what? It's $8 per vote, but I would say like right now, I'd say $5 to $6. Let's say $6 per vote.
Okay.
Let's not go $8. Okay. let's say 6 votes, $6 per vote,
okay.
right? And I'm going to bring you 5,000 votes.
5,000.
5,000
Okay.
votes. That's
Okay.
county-wide.
Right, right.
5,000 votes could swing the entire
Of course
state.
it can.
What would you think about President Trump? He's always complaining, right? And then imagine if you could swing the Texas.
I know.
It's a real reality.
It's a real reality.
We understand the Biden-Eager 5,000 votes, $55,000 cash for you. We understand that.
Quit saying that. Yeah, we know the numbers.
You're making him.
Making me nervous
Making
now.
you nervous.
Okay, folks, we can cut that off at this point. I want you to know, first of all, listeners, if you want to watch that whole tape, you can look it up yourself, Project Veritas, or go to my website, americacanwetalk.org. On the homepage, under shows, drop-down list of links is linked to the entire Project Veritas video, along with the more recent article describing everything they uncovered. You're hearing people plain as day, and they're not hiding out in a dark alley whispering at night. This is what they do. This is what they do. It's their business. They are negotiating, like someone might be negotiating, selling something legitimate, something legal. So just this is one problem we have, and we're going to hear in just a moment from our guest in the studio today about other things happening in Texas, including some knowledge about this. But in wrapping up today's First Five, I want to point out, we have been talking in this election cycle about the idea that the Democrats across the country have been pushing a massive mail-in fraud vote plan. It is a scheme for massive mail-in votes. Very different thing from absentee votes, where you request your ballot and you have a reason, whatever the law in your state says, you get the ballot, you return it, that's an absentee ballot. They're just talking about mailing out ballots, almost randomly, and then assuming somehow we'll safely be able to count which ones are legitimate, which are not. On top of that kind of fraud, you have this, you have what we just watched, and when you notice, I really encourage you to read the whole article, listen to the whole tape, you realize this is a business these people have engaged in. One of them talked at length about how she worked to register voters, so she cultivated them. She goes back, and there are other versions or other places in the tape where they're actually pointing out to people, hey, you voted for John Cornyn by mistake, who happens to be our candidate in Texas for U.S. Senate, the incumbent, and didn't you mean to vote for Hager? Oh, yeah, okay, here, let me show you how you can change your vote. These are people truly directly interfering with the election in Texas and being paid to do it. And on this tape, they list judges, elected officials that they claim to own. They explain, oh yeah, we get them elected and they pay us and we own them. Last thing I'll say in closing out the First Five, in addition to all this other clear fraud, just in the last few days, I just did a quick search. Where have we uncovered mail-in ballots that have been thrown in the trash by our trusty postal workers? We have Pennsylvania, we have New Jersey, we have Louisville, Kentucky, we have Santa Monica, California. The whole idea, if you think mail-in ballots, just a random mail-in ballot system, is going to render us an accurate count, you need to read these stories. You need to understand how out of control the whole mail-in ballot process is in this election cycle. Along with many other stories we've been talking about in the last couple of weeks, how radically determined the radical left is to win this election at any cost, to get rid of President Trump at any cost, to get Biden elected at any cost. You realize we're in a whole world of hurt, because the entire system in America that we talk about on this show all the time, the idea of a country rooted in we the people, as laid out in the Declaration of Independence, the right to live as a self-governed people, entirely relies on an honest election system. Entirely relies. Everything that we have, our entire constitutional structure, separation of powers, the powers of the legislature, everything we talk about starts with the idea of having honest elections, that people actually who are citizens and have the right to vote, have the opportunity to vote and have their vote counted, and that nobody else does except legal citizens who exercise their right to vote. So we are facing a true crisis in this country because voting of various kinds have been out of control for several election cycles. And at this point in 2020, less than a week away, we're discovering a massive voter fraud effort just in San Antonio, uncovered by Project Veritas. And we're about to hear a little more about that from my guest joining me today.